Very cool.
Can I make one more point, though? It was something that Pankaj said, and I actually think it's an interesting dichotomy, that you said that the service providers are now going to create technologies that are going to allow those business models that were in a very advertising-funded solution to perhaps create subscription services. Well, we're finding that on the telco side, the telcos are actually starting to go a little bit in the opposite direction and trying to jump onto the advertising bandwagon. As many of you know, there is a constant decline in revenue streams and margins for the telcos, right? So in the keynote yesterday, I think Garry was saying that if the telco, if a DSL provider never added a new consumer, they're still going to have to double their capacity every year because consumers expect more, but they also expect it for less. So there's this erosion of margins in really the entire telecom stream. So the telcos need to make up that money somewhere. So they're now looking to advertising, which is again the other piece of the technology that Genie delivers. They're looking to us for advertising technologies so they can compensate for their subscription services that again are being eroded. They want to start generating advertising revenue now to continue to stay afloat. Right.
So so one of the things that I'm not going to smash it because I do that too much, but one of the things that always kind of twists me about IMS and innovation is that IMS is a big standard made for big companies to deploy large services. And innovation typically comes from small guys doing interesting things for a niche audience. And they seem very far away to me, right? And one of the things that occurs to me is that the arguments around reliability for carriers makes a lot of sense because, it's just obvious. But the innovation story for carriers is a bit sketch, right? Because, and not to smack the carriers, but sometimes I feel like the advertising is the last bastion of not really having to think hard about innovation. Because, hey, advertising, we'll take it, right? But the flip side, if you look at it from the innovator side, from the very the niche guys, reliability is what they can't do. And it almost seems to me like in the future, people like Ribbit and people like the customers of Sonus got to get together, right? And so Crick, right? So can you talk about that for a bit? Can you postulate on that one for me?
Sure, I can tell you from personal experience. I was at AT&T before, and the old AT&T, and we spent a great deal of time working on innovation. And it's quite challenging when you're, a $40 or $50 billion company. Some employee or director or VP can have a really brilliant idea that they can project to be $100 million. Well, $100 million on a $50 billion P&L becomes an afterthought, and it's really, really difficult to innovate within an organization that's all trying to move $50 billion to $51 billion. So it's the innovator's dilemma. It's a classic innovator's dilemma, Clayton Christensen, and that's one of the reasons why I love to do the Ribbit program, because we had the opportunity to innovate. It isn't that the people within the large organizations aren't capable of intellectual innovation. It's that often they are stuck within the confines or the construct of the organizations in which they are.
Yes, right.
And so I don't want to say anything negative about them. They are doing the best they can within the environments in which they reside.
Right.
So the opportunity that they have to work with us is we are free to innovate without the confines that they have. Now, we're also hamstrung in many ways. We have a different problem. We have what's called the invisible engine problem, which means that we have no customers, and when we started, we had no platform. So we could build a platform with no customers, or we could try to get customers and then build a platform. And either one, you have to sort of ratchet it up. And at a certain point, we'll have enough of both to become attractive at a leap of faith level to a large organization. So now you were talking about SDPs, and I'm starting to realize we have our own SDP. I mean, we have our own soft switching, we have our own billing engine, we have our own customer database, we have all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we didn't buy it from Sonus, we built it.
Right.
Now, what can happen very logically is that we do find relationships with carriers, and we're able to provide these innovative services, and then we'll have to figure out a way to interconnect and crosstalk with their infrastructure.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good analysis from Crick about the carriers and the innovators dilemma and all those points. I heard from somebody here at the conference actually a really good analogy is like trying to steer a cruise ship versus trying to maneuver a lifeboat or a dingy boat, and it's a lot easier to move around in a speedboat or a jet ski or whatever, as opposed to trying to move a cruise ship to go from one degree to the other, right? So that was a great analogy, and it's kind of like that what Crick said. So I totally agree with that. From the point of SDP as a service versus SDP as a product or an equipment or a solution, I guess. I think there will always be an opportunity for players like Ribbit to play in the space of managed service providers and provide either applications that are developed on their SDP as managed services. Tomorrow maybe somebody like me, as smart as me or somebody smarter than me, comes up and creates a mobile search service that's running and built on Ribbit. And it's very easy to do that because it's open. I can download the Ribbit.
Yeah, Shai can do that.
Right.
Shai can't buy one of your stuff. He can do that.
But he can do that with his service, right? And so for that kind of a service, there will always be an opportunity for a carrier to go and partner and provide a managed service. And so there's a cooperative model there, where carriers can use our equipment to essentially
indeed,
work with
Scott, do you have a question?